The pregnancy test sat on the marble counter. Positive. And Charlotte Reynolds was terrified to tell her husband, not because he'd be angry about becoming a father, but because she'd learned to fear his reactions to everything. The way he'd slam his fist, the way his voice would go quiet and deadly, the way he'd grab her wrist just hard enough to leave marks no one else would see. But here's what Charlotte didn't know yet. In exactly 3 months, her husband would plan a gala. 500 guests, crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing, his crowning achievement. What he didn't know, every single guest would be undercover FBI. The waiters, the musicians, the photographers, the wealthy socialites, all of them, federal agents waiting for him to make one fatal mistake. And at 8 months pregnant, standing in that ballroom in a champagne silk dress, Charlotte would watch her husband's mask finally slip. Watch him shake her so violently that she'd start bleeding. Watch 500 agents reveal themselves simultaneously. This is the story of how a terrified pregnant woman became the bravest person in the room, how the FBI built an entire fake event just to catch one man, and how sometimes the only way out is straight through the fire. Stay with me, because what happened that night, you won't believe it until you hear every word. The pregnancy test sat on the marble counter. Positive. 3 months along, and Charlotte Reynolds had no idea how to tell her husband without flinching. Her hands shook as she stared at the 2 pink lines. They blurred, refocused, still there, still real. The bathroom felt too small suddenly. The white marble walls pressed in. She could hear her own breathing, fast, shallow, panicked. She'd been hiding it for 2 weeks now. Morning sickness blamed on food poisoning, exhaustion blamed on poor sleep. The growing tenderness in her breast blamed on her monthly cycle that never came. Grant hadn't noticed. Grant never noticed anything about her body unless it disappointed him. The sound of footsteps in the hallway made her heart slam against her ribs. Heavy, purposeful, getting closer. She grabbed the test, looked around wildly. Where could she hide it? The trash? No. He checked the trash. She'd learned that lesson 6 months ago when he had found a receipt for coffee she'd bought herself. Accused her of wasting his money on overpriced lattes. The tampon box. That was safe. He'd never looked there. She shoved the test inside, closed the box, tucked it back under the sink. Her reflection in the mirror looked pale, scared. She pinched her cheeks, forced color into them, smiled. The smile looked wrong, brittle. "Lottie," Grant's voice came through the door, sharp. "We need to talk, now." She unlocked the door. Her fingers fumbled with the latch. Grant stood in their bedroom holding his iPad. His jaw was tight. That muscle in his cheek twitched. The one that always twitched before he got angry. "I'm hosting a gala," he said. No greeting, no warmth, just information delivered like a command. 3 months from now, 500 guests. Reynolds text 20th anniversary. Lottie's stomach dropped. 3 months. She'd be 7 months pregnant by then. Huge. Undeniable. "Grant, I didn't know we were planning something, so..." His hand slammed down on the dresser. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. A picture frame rattled. She flinched, hated herself for flinching. "I don't recall asking your permission," Grant said. His voice was quiet now. Dangerous quiet. The kind of quiet that preceded storms. "This is my company, my anniversary, my gala. You'll be there. You'll smile. You'll look presentable. Is that understood?" Lottie did what she always did when he got like this. She counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathed in through her nose, out through her mouth, forced her shoulders down. Made her face soft, agreeable. "Of course, whatever you need." Grant's expression smoothed. The anger vanished like it had never existed. He smiled, set down the iPad, walked over and kissed her forehead. Cold, perfunctory. "Good girl, I knew you'd understand. Now get dressed. We have the charity luncheon at noon." He left the bedroom. She heard him whistling as he walked down the hall. Cheerful, like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just terrified her in their own bedroom. Lottie sank onto the edge of the bed. Her legs felt weak. The baby. She pressed a hand to her still flat stomach. What was she going to do? The memory hit her suddenly, sharp, visceral. 6 months ago, a different version of herself. She'd been standing in her office at the nonprofit. Sunshine Through the Windows Foundation. They helped women transitioning out of homelessness. Lottie had been the assistant director. She loved her job, loved the women she helped, loved the feeling of making a difference. That day, she'd been leading a team meeting, discussing their new partnership with the housing authority. Everyone was excited, energized. Then Grant walked in. He didn't knock, never knocked, just strode into her office in his expensive suit with that expression on his face, the one that said everyone else was wasting his time. "Charlotte," he'd said, using her full name, the name that felt too formal, too stiff. "You're quitting today." She'd laughed, actually laughed, thought he was joking. "What? Grant, I'm in the middle of—" "I'm not asking." His voice cut through her words like a blade. "You're my wife. That's your job now. This." He'd waved his hand dismissively at her office, at her career, at everything she'd built. "This is beneath you, beneath us. Pack your things." Her boss, Marianne, had been standing there, watching, helpless. The whole team had seen it happen. Lottie's face had burned with humiliation. "Grant, can we at least discuss this privately?" she tried. "There's nothing to discuss. Get your things. We're leaving." And she had. She'd packed up her desk while everyone pretended not to stare. Marianne had followed her to the door, pressed a business card into her hand. Her eyes had been wet. "If you ever need anything," she'd whispered. "Anything at all, you call me." Lottie had shoved the card in her pocket. Never called. What would she even say? Now she sat in her bedroom 3 months later, and that business card was still in her wallet. She'd never thrown it away. Some small part of her had known she might need it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Grant. "Don't forget to look nice today. We're sitting with the Hendersons, important donors." She texted back immediately. "Of course." Her fingers hovered over the screen. She opened her contacts, scrolled to Vivian Morrison, her best friend from college. They'd been roommates for 4 years, shared everything, secrets, dreams, fears. But Lottie hadn't talked to Viv much lately. Grant didn't like her, said she was a bad influence, too opinionated, too independent. Lottie pressed call before she could talk herself out of it. Viv answered on the second ring. "Lottie? Oh my God, I was just thinking about you. How are you?" The concern in Viv's voice made Lottie's throat tight. "I'm good, fine, just wanted to catch up." "Really? Because you sound weird." Viv had always been able to read her, even over the phone. "What's going on?" "Grant's planning a gala, big anniversary thing for the company, 3 months from now, 500 guests. She tried to sound excited, normal. Failed. "Okay." Viv's voice was careful. "And you're calling me because?" "I just—" Lottie paused, chose her words carefully. Grant checked her phone sometimes, read her messages. "I'm 7 months pregnant by then. He hasn't noticed I'm pregnant now." Silence on the other end. Long silence. Then Viv's voice came back different, harder, professional. She was an investigative journalist. This was her work voice. "Lottie, that's not normal. You know that, right? He's just busy. The company is expanding. There's a lot of pressure." "Lottie, I have to go. Charity luncheon. I'll call you later." She hung up before Viv could push further. Her hands were shaking again. She pressed them flat against her thighs, counted her breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The closet beckoned, the walk-in closet that was bigger than her first apartment. She went inside, shut the door, sat on the floor among Grant's perfectly organized suits and her carefully curated dresses. Everything color-coordinated, everything expensive, everything chosen by him. This was the only place in the whole penthouse that felt small enough to breathe in. The only space where the walls didn't echo, where she could pretend she was somewhere else, someone else. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Grant. "Dress fitting tomorrow morning, 9 sharp. Don't be late." Of course, the dress fitting, for a gala 3 months away when she'd be visibly pregnant, and he still hadn't noticed. Lottie pulled her knees to her chest, pressed her forehead against them. The baby fluttered, barely perceptible, just a whisper of movement. But it was there, real, growing. "I don't know what to do," she whispered to the baby, to herself, to no one. The closet door opened. Grant stood there looking down at her. His expression was unreadable. "What are you doing on the floor?" "Just looking for something," she said quickly, stood up, brushed off her pants. "Found it." He looked at her for a long moment, something calculating in his eyes. Then he smiled. "You're acting strange lately. Are you feeling well?" "Just tired." He reached out, touched her face. She forced herself not to flinch. "Maybe you should see Dr. Bradshaw again. Get your anxiety medication adjusted." Her therapist. The one Grant had insisted she see after she'd overreacted to his controlling behavior. The one who gently suggested that maybe the problem wasn't Lottie's anxiety. That suggestion had been 6 months ago. Lottie hadn't mentioned it to Grant. "Maybe," Lottie said. "Good." He patted her cheek. "Now get ready. We leave in an hour." He walked away, left the closet door open. She stayed there for another minute, breathing, counting, surviving. What she didn't know was that Vivian Morrison had already made 3 phone calls the moment they'd hung up. One to Marianne at the nonprofit, one to an FBI tip line she'd used for previous investigative work, and one to her own attorney. What she didn't know was that the wheels were already turning, that her call for help had been heard. Even if she hadn't realized she was asking for help at all, what she didn't know was that Grant's gala would become the biggest mistake of his life. But that would come later. For now, she got dressed, put on makeup, styled her hair, became the version of Charlotte Reynolds that Grant required. The pretty wife, the obedient wife, the wife who smiled and said nothing and took up as little space as possible. She looked at herself in the mirror one final time before leaving. Barely recognized the woman staring back. When had she become so small? When had her own reflection become a stranger? The charity luncheon was torture. 4 hours of fake smiling, of making small talk with people who looked through her like she was furniture, of watching Grant charm donors and partners while his hand on her knee under the table squeezed just a little too hard. A reminder, a warning. She ate her salad, drank her water, laughed at the right moments, said nothing interesting or memorable, exactly as expected. On the drive home, Grant was cheerful. "You did well today." The Hendersons were impressed. "Thank you. Tomorrow after your dress fitting, we'll review the guest list for the gala. I want your input on the seating arrangements." Liar. He didn't want her input, he wanted her compliance. But she nodded anyway. Of course. That night she lay in bed next to her husband. He was already asleep, snoring softly. She stared at the ceiling, counted the recessed lights, 16 of them. She counted them 100 times before. Her phone was on the nightstand. She picked it up, scrolled through her contacts, found Dr. Bradshaw's emergency number. Her thumb hovered over it. What would she even say? "My husband is controlling but not violent. My husband criticizes but doesn't hit. My husband makes me feel small but hasn't actually hurt me." Would anyone believe that was enough? Would anyone care? She put the phone down, turned on her side. Grant shifted in his sleep. His arm came around her waist, possessive, even unconscious. The baby fluttered again, stronger this time. She pressed her hand where the movement had been. "I'll figure it out," she promised, "somehow." But she had no idea how, no idea that help was already coming, no idea that 3 months from now, everything would change. For now, she closed her eyes and tried to sleep, tried not to think about the gala, about being 7 months pregnant and on display, about what Grant would do when he finally noticed. Tried not to think about how trapped she'd become. The city lights filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Manhattan stretched out below them, 52 floors up. Sometimes Lottie thought about how high they were, how far the fall would be. Not seriously, just abstractly, the way you think about things when you're desperate. She pulled the blanket up to her chin. Grant's arm tightened around her waist. She stopped moving, barely breathed, waited until she felt him relax again into deep sleep. Only then did she allow herself one small freedom. She cried, silently, tears sliding sideways into her hair, her pillow. The expensive Egyptian cotton sheets that Grant had chosen. Tomorrow would be another day of pretending, another day of performing, another day of being someone she didn't recognize. But tonight, just for these few hours while he slept, she could admit the truth. She was terrified. She was alone, and she had no idea how to save herself. The boutique smelled like lavender and new fabric. Expensive. Exclusive. The kind of place where you needed an appointment just to walk through the door. Grant had made the appointment, chosen the designer, selected the style and color before Lottie even knew they were going. She stood on the fitting platform in her undergarments while the seamstress circled her like a predator evaluating prey. The woman's name was Margot, French accent, perfectly manicured hands that held pins like weapons. Grant sat in a leather chair near the mirrors, his legs crossed, his expression unreadable, watching. "Arms up, please," Margot said. Lottie raised her arms. The measuring tape came around her ribs, her waist, her hips. She could feel Grant's eyes on every measurement, every number that came out of Margot's mouth. 34, 28, 37. Grant's jaw tightened. Lottie's stomach clenched. She knew what he was thinking, that she was getting fat, that she was letting herself go, that she was embarrassing him. What he didn't know was that she was 3 months pregnant, that those measurements would change dramatically over the next 4 months, that by the time of his gala, she'd be massive, and there was no dress in the world that could hide it. Margot brought out the sample. Champagne silk, bias cut. It would cling to every curve, show every imperfection. Grant had chosen well if his goal was to make her feel exposed. "Try this on," Margot said. Lottie stepped into the dress. The silk whispered against her skin, cold, slippery. Margot zipped it up. The fit was perfect now. It wouldn't be in 3 months. "Turn," Grant said. She turned slowly. The mirrors showed her from every angle. She looked pale, frightened. The dress was beautiful. She hated it. "It's lovely," Grant said. His voice was flat. "But you'll need to watch your weight between now and the gala. I won't have you looking bloated in the photos." Margot's hands paused on the pins she was placing. Just for a second. Then she continued working. Professional, silent. But Lottie saw something flicker across her face. Pity? Disgust? She couldn't tell. "Of course," Lottie said. The words came automatically. Agreement. Compliance. Surrender. Margot was pinning the hem when she accidentally stuck Lottie with a pin. The sharp pain made her flinch. Gasp. Grant stood up immediately, walked over. "Are you incompetent?" His voice was ice and razors. "This dress costs $10,000. If you damage it, or my wife, I'll make sure you never work in this city again." The seamstress went white, started trembling. "I'm so sorry. It was an accident. I didn't mean..." "Sorry isn't good enough." Grant leaned closer, invaded her space, used his height to intimidate. "Maybe you should consider a different profession if you can't manage the basics." "Grant," Lottie's voice came out small, placating. "It's fine, really. It didn't even hurt." He turned to her. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Don't interrupt me when I'm speaking." She closed her mouth, looked down, counted the buttons on her dress in the mirror. 5 of them, covered in silk. Probably cost $100 each. Margot finished the pinning with shaking hands. "The dress will be ready in 2 months, she said quietly, with room for minor alterations closer to the date. Grant paid $20,000 for a dress Lottie would wear once. Maybe, if she could figure out how to hide a 7-month pregnancy, which was impossible. In the car ride home, Grant drove in silence. Lottie stared out the window, watched the city blur past, people walking dogs, couples holding hands, normal lives she used to take for granted. "You're getting fat," Grant said suddenly. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach, covered it, protected it. "I'm not. I've been careful about..." "Don't lie to me." His voice was calm, too calm. "I can see it. Your face is fuller. Your body is changing. You're letting yourself go." "I'm pregnant, Grant." The words were out before she could stop them. Stupid. She'd meant to tell him differently, carefully, when he was in a good mood, if he was ever in a good mood anymore. He slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a stop in the middle of traffic. Horns blared behind them. He turned to her slowly. "What did you say?" Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. "I'm 3 months pregnant. I found out 2 weeks ago. I've been trying to find the right time to tell you." "You're lying." "I'm not. I have the test at home. I can show you." His face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, anger, calculation, then something worse. Disgust. How did this happen? How do you think it happened? Don't get smart with me. He started driving again, jerked the car forward. Are you sure it's mine? The question hit her like a physical blow. She couldn't breathe for a second. Of course it's yours. How can you even ask that? Because you've been acting strange, secretive, meeting with your friend Vivian. What else have you been hiding? Nothing, I swear. I didn't know how to tell you. Because you knew I'd be angry. No, because I knew you were stressed about the company and the gala, and I didn't want to add more pressure. He laughed, sharp, bitter. Well, congratulations. You've added pressure. A baby. Perfect timing. They drove the rest of the way in silence. Lottie pressed her forehead against the cool window. Tried not to cry. Failed. Tears slid down her cheeks. She wiped them away quickly. Didn't want him to see. When they got home, Grant disappeared into his office, slammed the door. She heard him on the phone. His voice was muffled but angry. She couldn't make out the words. She went to the bathroom, locked the door, sat on the edge of the bathtub fully clothed. The expensive marble felt cold through her clothes. She counted tiles, started at the corner. 1, 2, 3. Made it to 147 before she lost track. Her phone buzzed. A text from Vivian. How did the fitting go? Lottie stared at the message. How much should she tell? How honest could she be? She did that thing. That thing every woman who's been told she's wrong does. She opened her browser, typed in her search. Am I overreacting? Google autofilled the rest. Am I overreacting to my husband's anger? Am I overreacting about emotional abuse? Am I overreacting, or is this gaslighting? 3 a.m. Google searches in blue light. Desperate validation from strangers on the internet. She'd done this so many times before. Always late at night, always when Grant was asleep, always searching for someone to tell her she wasn't crazy. The results came up. Forums, articles, psychology websites. She scrolled through them, read stories that sounded familiar. Too familiar. Women describing their husbands in words that could have described Grant. He criticizes my weight but says he's just trying to help me be healthy. He controls the money but says he's just better at managing finances. He isolates me from friends but says they're bad influences. He makes me feel crazy but says I'm too sensitive. Am I overreacting? Is this normal? Other couples fight too, right? Lottie closed the browser, put down her phone, stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. When had she started looking so tired? When had the dark circles appeared? When had she started wearing her hair in a bun every day because it was easier than having him criticize how she styled it? A knock on the door made her jump. Charlotte? Grant's voice, still angry but controlled now. Come out. We need to talk. She unlocked the door. He stood there with papers in his hand. His face was smooth, pleasant. The anger had been put away, tucked into whatever box he kept it in until he needed it again. I've been thinking, he said, about the baby. She waited, didn't speak, didn't trust her voice. Obviously, this complicates the gala. You'll be showing by then, significantly showing. That's not the image I want to project. I'm sorry. The apology came automatically, programmed response. I didn't plan for the timing to be like this. Clearly, he handed her the papers. I've made an appointment for you, Dr. Helen Bradshaw, your therapist, tomorrow at 2. You need to get your anxiety under control. This is obviously stress-induced. You're not thinking clearly. She looked at the appointment card. Dr. Bradshaw. She'd been seeing her for 6 months, ever since Grant decided Lottie was too emotional and needed professional help. Okay, she said. Good. He touched her face. She made herself not flinch. I'm not angry about the pregnancy. I'm just disappointed that you didn't tell me sooner. We're supposed to be a team, Charlotte. Teams communicate. The word team almost made her laugh. When had they ever been a team? When had he ever consulted her about anything? Asked her opinion? Valued her input? But she nodded, smiled. You're right. I should have told you sooner. Yes, you should have. He kissed her forehead, walked away. She stayed in the bathroom doorway, the papers in her hand, Dr. Bradshaw's appointment card on top. Below it, something else. A printout from a website about pregnancy weight gain, normal ranges, what to expect. Highlighted sections about staying healthy. No, not healthy, thin. He'd highlighted sections about not gaining too much weight, about exercise routines, about portion control. At the bottom, he'd written in his neat handwriting, "No excuse to let yourself go." She crumpled the papers, threw them in the trash, immediately regretted it. He might check the trash. He'd done it before. She smoothed them out, put them on the counter, would deal with them later. The next day, she sat in Dr. Bradshaw's office. The beige couch was familiar now, worn in the same spot where she always sat. The tissue box was in the same place on the side table. She'd used it many times before. Dr. Bradshaw was in her mid-50s. Kind eyes, gentle voice. She'd been carefully documenting Lottie's sessions for 6 months, building a picture, waiting for the right moment. "Charlotte," Dr. Bradshaw said, "Grant called me this morning. He said you told him about the pregnancy." "Yes." "How did he react?" "He was surprised, but he's dealing with it. We both are." "That's not what I asked. I asked how he reacted." Lottie picked at the hem of her shirt. "He was upset at first, but then he calmed down. He's fine now." "Was he angry?" "A little, but I understand why. I should have told him sooner." Dr. Bradshaw leaned forward. Her voice was very gentle, very careful. "Charlotte, I need you to hear something. Pregnancy doesn't cause abuse. It often reveals it." The word hung in the air. Abuse. Heavy, ugly, not applicable to her situation. Grant didn't hit her. He had a temper. That was different, right? "He's not abusive," Lottie said. Her voice sounded defensive even to her own ears. "He's just particular, stressed. The company is expanding. There's a lot of pressure." "I see." Dr. Bradshaw made a note. The pen scratched across paper. That sound always made Lottie nervous. What was she writing? What did it mean? "I'd like you to think about something between now and our next session," Dr. Bradshaw said. "Imagine your daughter is grown. Imagine she's married. And imagine she describes her marriage to you the same way you describe yours. What would you tell her?" The question hit Lottie like cold water. She couldn't answer, couldn't even think about it without her throat closing up. "Just think about it," Dr. Bradshaw said softly. "That's all I'm asking." The session ended. Lottie drove home on autopilot. The question echoed in her head. What would she tell her daughter? She'd tell her to leave. She'd tell her she deserved better. She'd tell her that this wasn't love, that this wasn't normal, that she was worth more than this. But she couldn't take her own advice. Why? Because it was different when it was you. Because from the inside it looked complicated, nuanced, not black and white. Because leaving felt impossible. That night, Grant was charming at dinner. He cooked, made her favorite pasta, poured her sparkling water in a wine glass so she didn't feel left out, talked about baby names and nursery colors. "I was thinking we could do the nursery in gray and white," he said. "Gender neutral. Classic." "That sounds nice. And we should start interviewing nannies soon. I want someone with excellent references. Someone who understands the importance of routine and discipline." Of course, a nanny. Because even their baby would be something to control, something to manage according to Grant's specifications. But she smiled, agreed, played her part. After dinner, he went to his office to work. She cleaned up, loaded the dishwasher, wiped down the counters, found herself doing it slowly, methodically, delaying the moment when she'd have nothing to do but think. Her phone rang. "Vivian," she answered quietly. "Hey. You never texted me back. How are you? How did the fitting go?" "It was fine." "Lottie, come on. Talk to me. What's really going on?" And there it was, the concern in Viv's voice, the genuine care. It made something crack inside Lottie's chest, made her eyes burn. "I told him," she whispered, "about the pregnancy. And he called me fat, if it was his, then made me an appointment with my therapist to manage my anxiety." Silence. Then Viv's voice came back different, harder, dangerous. "Lottie, that's not okay. You know that's not okay, right?" He's just stressed. Stop. Stop making excuses for him. Listen to yourself. You're pregnant with his child, and he's calling you fat and questioning paternity. That's not stress. That's cruelty. Viv, I'm coming over. No, you can't. Grant doesn't like when I have visitors without telling him first. Grant doesn't like, Grant doesn't want. Grant, Grant, Grant. What about what you like, what you want? Lottie didn't have an answer for that. Couldn't remember the last time anyone had asked her what she wanted. I have to go, she said. I'll call you later. She hung up before Viv could argue. Immediately felt guilty. Viv was just trying to help, but she didn't understand. Nobody understood unless they lived it. Grant emerged from his office around 11. She was already in bed pretending to read. He got ready for bed, brushed his teeth, changed into pajamas, climbed in beside her. I've been thinking, he said, about the gala. Her stomach tightened. Okay. We'll need to manage the optics carefully. You'll be 7 months pregnant by then, very visibly pregnant. But if we do it right, it could actually work in our favor. The family man image, successful CEO with a baby on the way. Right. So we'll need you to look perfect, glowing, happy. None of this tired, anxious energy you've been giving off lately. Understood? Understood. He kissed her, rolled over, was asleep within minutes. She lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, counting recessed lights. 16 of them. Always 16. What she didn't know was that Dr. Bradshaw had already submitted a report to the hospital's risk assessment team, flagging Lottie as high risk for domestic violence. Pregnant victim, escalating control, classic pattern. What she didn't know was that the report had been forwarded to someone else, someone who'd been waiting for exactly this kind of case. What she didn't know was that her question about what she'd tell her daughter had haunted Dr. Bradshaw too, enough to break confidentiality, enough to make that call. But Lottie didn't know any of that yet. She just lay in the dark next to her husband, protected her growing belly with one hand, and wondered how long she could keep pretending. The answer was 3 months, but she didn't know that yet either. Lottie woke at 2 in the morning because Grant's side of the bed was cold. She reached across the empty sheets. Nothing. She listened. Silence. Then voices, muffled, coming from down the hall. She got up slowly. Her feet touched the cold hardwood floor. The penthouse was dark except for a sliver of light under Grant's office door. She walked toward it, each step careful, quiet. She'd learned to move silently through her own home. The door was cracked open. Just an inch. Enough to see him sitting at his desk with his back to her. Phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, dangerous. The voice he used when he was truly angry, when the mask came completely off. I don't care what it was, he said. Handle it. Pause. Someone speaking on the other end. The gala is critical. Nothing can go wrong, especially not her. He spat the word like poison. Her. Lottie froze in the hallway. Her heart stopped. Started again too fast. If she makes a scene, if she embarrasses me in front of the board, you know what to do. Another pause. Yes, exactly. Make it look natural. Pregnancy complications. These things happen. The world tilted. Lottie's hand flew to her mouth, pressed hard to stop the sound that wanted to escape. He couldn't mean, he wouldn't, but his voice was so cold, so certain. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. Half now, half when it's done. Pause. No, she suspects nothing. She's too stupid to see what's right in front of her face. Click. He set down the phone, started to turn in his chair. Lottie ran, silent as a ghost, back down the hallway. Into the bedroom, under the covers. She pressed her eyes shut, tried to breathe normally, couldn't. Her chest felt tight, constricted, like someone was sitting on it. The door opened. Grant came in. She felt him watching her. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Played dead like prey, hoping the predator would pass by. He got into bed. His arm came around her waist. His hand settled on her stomach. Over the baby. His touch felt like a threat. Baby, he said softly. What are you doing up? She swallowed. Opened her eyes, but bathroom. I was just coming back. His hand pressed slightly harder on her stomach. Not enough to hurt. just enough to remind her who had the power. Come back to bed. You need your rest. She nodded, turned away from him, curled on her side with her hands protecting her belly. He fell asleep quickly, his breathing evening out, his grip loosening. She didn't sleep. Couldn't. Her mind was racing. You know what to do. Make it look natural. Pregnancy complications. He was planning something terrible. For the gala, for her, maybe for the baby. She had to tell someone. But who? Her parents were in Florida. She hadn't talked to them in months. Grant said they were overbearing, interfering. She believed him, or at least stopped arguing. Vivian, she had to call Vivian, but it was 2:30 in the morning. And what would she even say? My husband implied on the phone that he might hurt me? It sounded paranoid, crazy, like her anxiety talking, like she was overreacting. But she'd heard him. She'd heard every word. Morning came too slow and too fast. Grant woke up cheerful, whistling in the shower, making coffee, acting like he hadn't been planning her murder 8 hours earlier. I have meetings all day, he said over breakfast. Will you be okay here alone? Yes. Good. He kissed her forehead, squeezed her shoulder just a little too hard. Remember Dr. Bradshaw at 2, don't miss it. I won't. He left. The door closed, the lock clicked. She was alone. She grabbed her phone, hands shaking so hard she almost dropped it. Called Vivian. It rang, rang. Lottie, Viv's voice was thick with sleep. It's 7 in the morning. Are you okay? Viv, her voice cracked, broke. I need you to tell me the truth. Am I losing my mind? What? No. Why, what happened? I can't explain on the phone. Can you come over, please? Grant's gone for the day. I'll be there in 45 minutes. Lottie spent those 45 minutes pacing, checking the door, looking out windows, jumping at every sound. The elevator dinged. She ran to the peephole. Vivian, she opened the door. Viv took one look at her and pulled her into a hug. Lottie started crying, couldn't stop. Great gulping sobs that made her whole body shake. Okay, Viv said. Come on, sit down, breathe, tell me everything. They sat on the couch, Lottie's couch, in Lottie's penthouse. That didn't feel like hers at all. She told Viv about the phone call, every word she could remember. Viv's face got harder with each sentence. When Lottie finished, Viv was quiet for a long time. Then she stood up, walked to her bag, pulled out a folder. A thick folder. I need to show you something, Viv said. I've been documenting. For months. I'm sorry. I know I should have told you sooner, but I needed to be sure. I needed evidence before I said anything. She opened the folder. Papers spilled across the coffee table. Printed emails, photos, timeline of incidents, dates, witnesses, details Lottie had forgotten or blocked out. The night you quit your job, Viv said, your boss, Marianne, called me. She was terrified for you. She said Grant had been showing up at the office for weeks before that, making everyone uncomfortable, asserting control. Lottie stared at the papers, Marianne's contact information, photos of the non-profit office, her old desk. Next page, Viv flipped to a hospital report. 8 months ago, you told me you had food poisoning, remember? Yes, I was sick for 3 days. This is your ER record from that night. Dr. Patricia Bennett noted bruising on your upper arms consistent with forceful gripping. She asked you about domestic violence. You said you fell. Lottie's hands went to her upper arms. She did remember bruising. Grant had grabbed her during an argument, shaken her. She'd gone to the ER because she couldn't stop vomiting from the stress. Not from food poisoning, she'd lied, even to herself. There's more. Viv kept flipping pages. Bank statements, property deeds, legal documents. Your grandmother's investment property, the one she left you, the one you were so proud of. Look at the deed. Lottie looked. Her name wasn't on it. Grant's name was, sole owner. How? That was mine. She left it to me. Power of attorney. Remember last year when you signed those tax documents he brought home? She did remember. She'd been tired. He'd said it was routine. She'd signed without reading. Stupid. So stupid. He transferred everything into his name. The property, your inheritance, your trust fund from your grandparents, all of it. You have nothing, Lottie. He's been systematically taking everything from you for 2 years. The room spun. Lottie pressed her hands to her face, tried to breathe, couldn't. The walls were closing in. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. I need to go to the bathroom, she managed. She ran, made it to the toilet just in time. Threw up. Morning sickness and panic combined into something violent. She retched until there was nothing left, then sat on the cold tile floor. Fully clothed, let the coolness seep through her clothes into her skin. She counted tiles. Started at the corner by the toilet. 1, 2, 3. Made it to 147 again. The same number as last time. The same meaningless number that helped her feel in control when everything else was chaos. The baby kicked, hard, insistent, like it was trying to get her attention. She pressed her hand where the movement had been. I know, she whispered, Fred. I know we have to do something. But what? What can I do? Vivian knocked softly on the door. Lottie, can I come in? Yes, Viv came in, sat on the floor next to her. Didn't say anything, just sat there. Present, solid, real. I didn't know it was this bad, Lottie said finally. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. I know. He's going to hurt me at the gala. I heard him on the phone. He's paying someone to make it look like pregnancy complications. I believe you. Viv's voice was steady, certain. And we're going to stop him. How? I made some calls. After you called me the other day, I contacted someone I've worked with before, an FBI agent who specializes in domestic violence cases. Her name is Rebecca Torres. She's expecting to hear from us. The FBI? Lottie's voice came out high, panicked. Viv, I can't. Grant will find out. He'll what? Hurt you? He's already planning to do that. Lottie, this is serious. This is beyond anything you can handle alone. You need help. Professional help. Legal help. But I don't have any proof. Just a phone call I overheard. That's not enough. It's a start. Viv pulled out her own phone. I recorded some of what you told me. With your permission, I want to send it to Agent Torres. She can tell us what to do next. Uy, I don't know. Lottie, look at me. Viv took her hands, held them tight. You have to survive. You and this baby. Nothing else matters right now. Not the penthouse, not the money, not what people think. Just survival. Can you do that? Could she? Could she actually fight back? Actually try to escape? Or would she just curl up and wait for whatever Grant had planned? The baby kicked again. Harder this time. Painful. A reminder that she wasn't just making decisions for herself anymore. Okay, she said. Call her. Call Agent Torres. What she didn't know was that Agent Torres had been waiting for this call, that Dr. Bradshaw's report had landed on her desk 3 days ago, that Marianne from the nonprofit had also reached out, that Grant Reynolds had been on the FBI's radar for months, not for domestic violence, for other things, financial crimes, fraud, embezzlement. But they hadn't had a way in, hadn't had anyone willing to testify. Until now. Viv made the call right there on the bathroom floor. Put it on speaker. This is Agent Torres. Agent Torres, this is Vivian Morrison. We spoke 2 days ago about Charlotte Reynolds. Yes, I remember. Is Mrs. Reynolds with you? I'm here, Lottie said. Her voice sounded small, scared. She hated how scared she sounded. Mrs. Reynolds, thank you for reaching out. I know this is difficult. Can you tell me what's changed since Vivian and I last spoke? Lottie told her about the phone call, every detail. Agent Torres didn't interrupt, didn't question, just listened. When Lottie finished, there was a pause. Mrs. Reynolds, I believe you, and I want to help you, but I need you to understand something. If we proceed with this, your life is going to change completely. There's no going back. Are you prepared for that? I don't know. That's honest. I appreciate honesty. Agent Torres' voice was kind but firm. Here's what I can tell you. Your husband is under investigation. Not for domestic violence, though we have enough evidence to pursue that now. For financial crimes, wire fraud, securities violations. We've been building a case for 2 years. What? Lottie couldn't process this. Grant? Her husband? I don't understand. You don't need to understand everything right now. What you need to know is this. We can protect you. We can stow what he's planning. But we need your cooperation. And we need to move quickly. His gala is in 3 months. Yes, June 15th. Perfect. That gives us time. Mrs. Reynolds, how do you feel about helping us catch your husband in the act? The question hung in the air. How did she feel? Terrified, relieved, angry, devastated, all of it at once. I want him to pay for what he's done, she said finally. Not just to me, to everyone he's hurt. Good, that's what I needed to hear. Can you meet me tomorrow? Somewhere your husband doesn't know about? The Botanical Gardens, East Entrance. I go there sometimes. He doesn't monitor that. Doesn't monitor that? Agent Torres' voice sharpened. He monitors other places? He checks my phone sometimes, looks at my location, asks where I've been. I see. Okay, Botanical Gardens, East Entrance, tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Come alone. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Not even Vivian. If your husband asks, you're shopping for maternity clothes. Understood? Understood. Mrs. Reynolds, you're doing the right thing. It takes tremendous courage to make this call. Don't forget that. They hung up. Lottie looked at Vivian. I think I just agreed to help the FBI take down my husband. Yes, you did. Viv smiled, sad, proud. I'm so proud of you. I'm terrified. That's normal. Being terrified means you're smart enough to understand how serious this is. They sat on the bathroom floor for a while longer. Then Lottie got up, washed her face, looked at herself in the mirror. She looked different somehow. Not better, just more awake, like someone who'd been sleepwalking and finally opened her eyes. Vivian helped her go through the folder. All the evidence, all the documentation, photos of bruises Lottie didn't remember posing for, medical records, financial documents, a timeline that showed clear escalation over 2 years. When did you start collecting all this? Lottie asked. About a year ago. Remember that party at your place? When Grant screamed at you for burning the appetizers? Lottie remembered. She'd been so humiliated. All their friends watching. She'd locked herself in the bedroom and cried. Viv had come to check on her, stayed with her for an hour. I knew then, Viv said. I knew something was really wrong. So I started paying attention. Taking notes, keeping records, just in case. Thank you. The words felt inadequate, but Lottie meant them with everything she had. Thank you for not giving up on me. Never. I'll never give up on you. At 1:30, Lottie made Viv leave. She had the appointment with Dr. Bradshaw at 2. Couldn't be late. Grant would know if she was late. She drove to the therapist's office on autopilot. Her mind was spinning. FBI, investigation, evidence, Gala, trap, danger, safety, freedom, prison. All of it swirling together until she couldn't think straight. Dr. Bradshaw's waiting room was empty, quiet. The receptionist smiled at her. Go right in, she's expecting you. Lottie sat on the familiar beige couch. Dr. Bradshaw came in with her notepad, closed the door, sat down across from her. Charlotte, how are you? And for the first time in 6 months of therapy, Lottie told the complete truth. Everything, the phone call, the folder, the FB, why I'm on of it. She cried through most of it. Dr. Bradshaw handed her tissues, listened without judgment. When Lottie finished, Dr. Bradshaw was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She smiled. Do you know why I filed that report? Dr. Bradshaw asked. What report? 3 days ago, I submitted a risk assessment report to the hospital's domestic violence unit, flagging you as high risk. I broke confidentiality. I could lose my license for that. You, why? Because you asked me that question about what I'd tell your daughter, and I realized I'd been waiting for you to realize how bad it was. But you couldn't see it from the inside, so I had to act. I had to get you help, even if you weren't ready to ask for it. Lottie started crying again, but different tears this time. Relief, gratitude. Thank you. You're going to be okay, Dr. Bradshaw said firmly. This is going to be hard. Probably the hardest thing you've ever done. But you're going to survive, and you're going to be stronger than you ever imagined possible. That night, Lottie went home and made dinner. Grant came home at 7, cheerful, affectionate, complimented the meal, asked about her day, acted like a normal husband in a normal marriage. She played along, smiled, laughed at his jokes, pretended everything was fine. But inside, she was different now. Inside, she knew the truth. Inside, she was already planning her escape. After dinner, Grant went to his office. She cleaned up, then went to the nursery she'd been decorating. Pale yellow walls, white crib, stuffed animals lined up on the shelf. She'd done all this hoping to make it feel real, hoping to feel excited. But it had always felt like pretending. Now she stood in the middle of the room and made a promise to her unborn daughter. "I'm going to protect you," she whispered. "I'm going to get us out of this. I don't know how yet, but I promise you, we're going to be free." The baby kicked in response, like she understood, like she believed. Lottie hoped that belief was enough because she had no idea what tomorrow would bring, no idea what she was walking into, no idea if the FBI could actually protect her or if this would all blow up in her face, but she couldn't go back. Couldn't unknow what she now knew. Couldn't pretend anymore. Tomorrow she would meet Agent Torres. Tomorrow she would start fighting back. Tomorrow she would begin the long road to freedom. Tonight she just stood in the nursery and held her belly and hoped with everything she had that she was making the right choice. Outside, the city stretched below them. 52 floors down, so far to fall, but maybe also so far to climb back up. The botanical gardens smelled like earth and green growing things. Lottie arrived 15 minutes early, found a bench near the orchid pavilion, sat with her hands folded in her lap, trying not to look as terrified as she felt. People walked past, a mother with a stroller, an elderly couple holding hands, teenagers taking selfies near the roses. Normal people living normal lives. She used to be one of them, or thought she was. Now she knew better. At exactly 10 o'clock, a woman sat down on the other end of the bench, mid-40s, professional clothes, kind eyes that had seen too much. She didn't look at Lottie, just sat there holding a coffee cup from the garden cafe. "Mrs. Reynolds?" Her voice was quiet, careful. "Yes. I'm Special Agent Rebecca Torres. Thank you for meeting me." She showed her credentials, real federal ID, FBI seal, photo that matched her face. "I know you're scared. That's normal. That's smart. I don't know what I'm doing here. You're here because you want to survive. That's enough." Torres finally looked at her, really looked at her, saw her. "How far along are you?" 16 weeks, 4 months. And he still doesn't really accept it? He accepts it. He just wishes it was different, more convenient, less visible. Lottie's hands went to her stomach automatically, protective. "He's planning something for the gala. I heard him on the phone." "I know. Vivian told me. We've started tracing his recent communications. He made 4 calls that night, 1 to a private security firm, 1 to his attorney, 1 to an offshore account manager, 1 to an unlisted number we're still tracking." "Security firm? Why would he need—" "Because he's planning to have you removed from the gala if you cause a scene. Removed could mean many things, none of them good, especially given your condition." Lottie felt cold. The garden suddenly seemed too open, too exposed. "He's going to hurt me. He's going to hurt my baby." "Not if we stop him first." Torres set down her coffee, pulled out a slim folder. "Mrs. Reynolds, Charlotte. Can I call you Charlotte?" "Yes." "Charlotte, I need to tell you something. Your husband has been under federal investigation for 22 months. Wire fraud, securities violations, money laundering, tax evasion. We've been building a case, but we haven't had grounds to move forward until now." "I don't understand. Why not?" "Because financial crimes require witness testimony, documentary evidence, a clear pattern. We had some of that, but your husband is careful, smart. He covers his tracks, uses shell companies, offshore accounts. We needed someone on the inside." Torres paused. "We needed you." The words hit like a punch. Lottie's breath caught. "You want me to spy on him?" "No, we want you to protect yourself while we gather the evidence we need. Your therapist filed a report. Your friend compiled documentation. Your former boss reached out to us. And now you've come forward about a direct threat. That's enough for us to act. Act how? Torres opened the folder. Inside were photos, documents, surveillance images, Grant meeting with people Lottie didn't recognize, Grant entering buildings she'd never heard of, Grant living a whole life she knew nothing about. Your husband isn't just a CEO, Torres said. He's a criminal. He's been defrauding investors for years. Millions of dollars. He's ruined lives, destroyed retirement accounts, bankrupted families. And he's done it all while pretending to be a respectable businessman. Lottie stared at the photos. This was Grant, but also not Grant. Or maybe this was who he'd always been and she'd just never seen it. What do you want me to do? I know what to do, she asked. We want to turn his gala into an operation. A sting. Torres pulled out more papers. Diagrams, floor plans, guest lists. 500 people will be invited to this event. What if all 500 were federal agents? What? We create a complete fake gala. Every guest is FBI, marshals, local police, state troopers. We build fake identities, backgrounds, reasons to be there. Your husband invites real people, but we intercept the invitations, send regrets, replace them with our agents. Lottie's mind spun. That's insane. He'll know. He'll figure it out. No, he won't, because he doesn't actually know these people. He sends invitations to impress donors and investors. Most are strangers to him. Business contacts, industry people, wealthy socialites. He's never met most of them. We can replace them easily. But his business partners, his board members, the people he actually knows, we'll handle them. Some will cooperate with the investigation once we approach them. Some will be detained on other charges that night. Some will simply not show up. By the time the gala happens, every person in that room will be working for us. The scope of it was staggering. Impossible, but Torres seemed completely serious, completely certain. Why, Lottie asked, why go to all this trouble? Because your husband will feel safe, powerful, surrounded by witnesses he thinks are on his side. That's when men like him slip, make mistakes, show their true nature. Torres leaned closer. And because when he acts, when he hurts you, we'll have 500 federal witnesses, perfect documentation, ironclad evidence. He won't be able to deny it, won't be able to charm his way out, won't be able to hurt another woman ever again. The weight of it settled on Lottie's chest. You want me to be bait? No, I want to give you the power. You'll wear a wire, audio and video, panic button hidden in your jewelry. We'll have agents positioned everywhere. The moment you're in danger, we move. But we need you to act naturally. Be yourself. Let him think he's winning. And if something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong. But if it does, Torres looked at her for a long moment. Then we have a backup plan, and a backup for the backup, and 50 agents whose primary job is your safety. Charlotte, I won't lie to you. There's risk. But doing nothing is riskier. He's already planning something. At least this way you're not alone. Lottie thought about that, about not being alone. She'd been alone for so long, even surrounded by people, especially surrounded by people, because none of them really saw her, really knew what was happening. There's something else, Torres said. Your husband's assistant, Jenna Palmer. She came to us 3 weeks ago. Jenna, why? Because she's been watching him treat you like this for 2 years, and because she has recordings, emails, documentation of his abuse, not just of you, of female employees, business partners who wouldn't cooperate, investors who questioned him. He's been systematically destroying anyone who gets in his way. Torres pulled out a thumb drive. This is everything Jenna gave us. I'm giving you a copy, not because you need to see it, but because you need to know. You're not the only victim. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. He's dangerous. To you, to others, and you have a chance to stop him. Lottie took the thumb drive. It felt heavy, heavier than it should. I need time to think. You have until Friday, 3 days. After that, we need to start building the operation. The gala is in 78 days. That's barely enough time to set up an operation this complex. What do I do until then? Go home, act normal. Don't tell your husband about this meeting. Don't change your behavior. Don't give him any reason to suspect. Torres stood, pulled out a card. This has my direct number. Memorize it. Don't save it in your phone. If you need me, if anything happens, you call, day or night. Understood? Understood. Torres walked away, disappeared into the gardens. Lottie sat on the bench for a long time after, watching people pass, living their normal lives, wishing she could trade places with any of them. Her phone buzzed. Text from Grant. Where are you? Her heart jumped. She typed back quickly. Maternity shopping, found some cute things, home soon. Good. Dinner at 7 with the Hendersons. Wear something nice. Of course, more performing, more pretending, more playing the perfect wife for an audience that would judge her no matter what she did. She stood up, started walking toward the exit, stopped, turned around. There was a small garden shop near the Orchid Pavilion. She went inside, looked around, found what she wanted. A small jade plant, hardy, difficult to kill, symbolic of good luck and prosperity. She bought it, carried it to her car, set it carefully in the passenger seat. When had she last bought something just because she wanted it? When had she last made a choice without considering Grant's opinion first? She couldn't remember. The plant sat in the passenger seat all the way home. Small, green, alive. A tiny act of rebellion, of self-determination, of hope. At home, she put it in the kitchen window. Grant came home while she was watering it. What's that? He asked. A plant. I bought it today. He looked at it, looked at her. We don't need plants. I wanted it. Something flickered across his face. Surprise? Annoyance? It was gone too quickly to tell. Fine, but don't let it die. I won't have dead plants in my home. Our home, she said quietly. What? Nothing. I'll take care of it. He left the kitchen. She touched the jade plant's leaves, smooth, cool, real. I'm going to take care of both of us, she whispered. Dinner with the Hendersons was torture as always. 4 hours of fake smiling while Grant's hand on her knee squeezed warnings. While Mrs. Henderson made pointed comments about Lottie's weight gain. While Mr. Henderson told inappropriate jokes and Grant laughed too loud. But now Lottie saw it differently, saw how Grant controlled every interaction, steered every conversation, made sure she never spoke unless spoken to, never expressed an opinion, never existed except as an extension of him. How had she not seen it before? Or had she seen it and just convinced herself it was normal? That night in bed, Grant was affectionate, wanted sex. She went through the motions. Let him touch her. Move on top of her. Finish. He rolled off satisfied, was asleep within minutes. She went to the bathroom, locked the door, inserted the thumb drive Torres had given her into her laptop, opened the files. What she saw made her physically sick. She had to stop 3 times to throw up, had to sit on the cold tile floor breathing through her nose until the nausea passed. Emails from Grant to investors, lying about returns, falsifying documents, stealing money and blaming market fluctuations. Recordings from Jenna. Phone calls where Grant verbally destroyed female employees, threatened them, made sexual comments, created hostile work environments, drove women to quit, then badmouthed them to prevent them getting hired elsewhere. Video from security cameras. Grant grabbing Lottie's arm hard enough to bruise, shoving her against a wall at a company party when he thought no one was watching, backing her into corners, using his size to intimidate. She watched herself become smaller, quieter, more subdued. Over the course of 2 years, watched herself disappear right in front of her own eyes. When did I lose myself, she thought. When did I become this woman who flinches and apologizes and takes up no space? She closed the laptop, deleted the browsing history, put the thumb drive in her tampon box with the pregnancy test, the safest place in the apartment. Then she did that thing women do when they think they've been stupid for not seeing what was right in front of them. She sat on the bathroom floor and apologized to herself. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry I let this happen. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. But Agent Torres' words came back to her, clear, firm. You're not stupid. You're a survivor. There's a difference, bro. Survivor. The word felt strange, unfamiliar, but also maybe true. She'd survived, despite everything. Despite 2 years of systematic destruction, she was still here, still functioning, still capable of recognizing the truth when it was finally laid out in front of her. That had to count for something. She went back to bed. Grant was snoring, sprawled across his side, taking up more than half the mattress. She curled into her small corner, protected her belly with both hands. 3 days, she whispered to the baby. I have 3 days to decide. Tell me what to do. Give me a sign. The baby kicked, hard, right against her hand, like she was saying yes, like she was saying fight, like she was saying, we've got this, Mom. Lottie smiled in the dark. First real smile in months. Okay then. We fight. She didn't sleep much that night. Just lay there planning, thinking, imagining a future where she wasn't constantly afraid, where she could breathe without permission, where she could be herself. It seemed impossible. But then again, the FBI creating a fake gala seemed impossible too. And they were apparently going to do it. Why couldn't she do the impossible too? Thursday passed in a blur. Friday came, the 3-day deadline Agent Torres had given her. She made her decision over breakfast while Grant read the newspaper and ignored her. She called Torres from her car in the parking garage of a grocery store she wasn't actually shopping at. Agent Torres, it's Charlotte Reynolds. Charlotte, have you made a decision? Yes. She took a deep breath, let it out slowly. Yes, I'll do it. I'll help you. Whatever you need. Good, that's good. Can you meet me this afternoon? Same place? No, Grant's home early today, but tomorrow, Sunday, I can get away for a few hours. Tell him I'm going to yoga. Perfect. Botanical Gardens, noon. We'll go over everything. Charlotte? Yes? You're doing the right thing. You're saving yourself, you're saving your baby, and you're saving every other woman he might have hurt next. Don't forget that. Lottie hung up, sat in her car in the parking garage, a new jade plant on the passenger seat. She'd bought another one. Bigger this time, more leaves, more life. She'd survived this long. She could survive a little longer, just until the gala, just until Grant's world came crashing down, just until she was free. 75 days, she told the plant, told herself, told her daughter. We can do this for 75 days. The plant sat there silently, green, alive, proof that growth was possible even in difficult conditions. Lottie started the car, drove home, made dinner, played her part. But inside she was different now. Inside she had a plan. Inside she was already halfway free. And Grant had no idea at all. The safe house was in Queens, a small apartment in a building that looked like every other building on the block. Torres met her at the door, brought her inside. 3 other agents were there, 2 men, 1 woman, all in plain clothes, all watching her with expressions she couldn't quite read. Charlotte, this is Agent Marcus Wells, Agent Sarah Winters, and Detective Owen Marshall. They're part of the task force. Lottie nodded to each of them. Felt suddenly shy, exposed. These people knew everything about her, had read files, seen recordings, watched her at her most vulnerable. Have a seat, Torres said. We have a lot to cover. They sat around a folding table covered in papers, floor plans, guest lists, operational timelines, photos of Grant with dates and locations noted. First things first, Torres said. Are you having any second thoughts? Every single thought is a second thought, Lottie admitted. But I'm here. I'm committed. Good, because once we start this, there's no backing out. Your husband can't suspect anything. Your behavior has to be completely normal. Can you do that? Lottie thought about the last 8 weeks, pretending to be happy, hiding pregnancy symptoms, lying about where she'd been and who she'd talked to. Yes, I've been doing it for months. All right, let's talk logistics. The gala is in 72 days. Here's what that timeline looks like. Torres pulled out a calendar. Dates marked in different colors. Red for operational milestones. Blue for Lottie's checkpoints. Green for Grant's activities they needed to monitor. Week 1 through 4, we build the operation, create fake identities for 500 agents. Intercept invitations, reach out to Grant's real contacts and either get cooperation or neutralize them. Neutralize? Detain on unrelated charges. Convince them to skip the event. Whatever it takes. Some will cooperate, some won't. We can't have wild cards in the room. What about his business partners? Ethan Pierce, the board members? Pierce is already under investigation. 2 board members have agreed to cooperate. 3 we're still working on. They'll be handled. Agent Wells spoke up. Mrs. Reynolds, do you know how many people your husband actually has close personal relationships with? I don't know. Not many. He doesn't really have friends, just business associates. Exactly. We've analyzed his communications. He has approximately 12 people he speaks to regularly outside of work. Of those 12, 7 are business contacts we can manage. 3 are family members, 2 are his attorney and financial advisor. What about his mother? Lottie asked. Diane, she'll definitely be there. Torres made a note. We'll need to brief her separately, see if she'll cooperate or if we need to exclude her from the operation. She won't believe you. She thinks Grant is perfect. She's always protected him. Mothers often do. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Agent Winters pulled out a small black box, opened it. Inside was a necklace. Delicate, expensive looking. Pearls with a diamond pendant. This is what you'll wear the night of the Gala, she explained. The pendant contains a camera. Audio and video. The clasp has a panic button. Press it 3 times fast and every agent in the room moves. Lottie took the necklace, held it carefully. It looks so normal, so innocent. What if Grant sees it, examines it? He won't. It's been designed to look exactly like the kind of jewelry he'd approve of. Elegant, classic, expensive but not flashy. Your friend Vivian actually helped us choose the style based on what you usually wear. Viv knows about all this? She's been briefed. She's also agreed to help. She'll be at the gala, not as an agent, as your friend, your support system. Someone real in a room full of fakes. The thought of Viv being there made Lottie feel marginally less terrified. Okay, what else? For the next 3 hours, they walked through every detail, where Lottie would stand, what she would say, how to signal if she needed help, escape routes if something went wrong, medical team on standby, ambulance positioned nearby. We're preparing for every contingency, Torres said, including the worst-case scenario. If he moves faster than we anticipate, if he tries to hurt you before we can intervene. We have protocols. What's the worst-case scenario? Lottie asked. Silence. Torres and Wells exchanged looks. The worst case, Torres said finally, is that he does exactly what he threatened on that phone call. Causes pregnancy complications. Makes it look like an accident. That's what we're stopping. But we need you to understand there's inherent risk. I understand. Do you? Because I need to be very clear. We believe we can protect you, but your husband is dangerous, unpredictable when cornered, violent when his control is threatened. You've seen that yourself. Lottie had. She'd seen his rage, felt his hands on her, heard the threats in his voice. Yes, she understood. What happens to me after? She asked. After the gala, after he's arrested, what's my life like? You'll be protected. We'll have agents assigned to you until trial. You'll testify. That's non-negotiable. But afterward, you're free. New life, new start, whatever you want. Whatever she wanted. The phrase felt foreign. What did she want? She'd spent so long not wanting anything. Not allowing herself to want, keeping her desires small, manageable, acceptable. I want my grandmother's property back, she said. The one he stole from me, I want that. You'll get it. We have forensic accountants already working on untangling his finances. Everything he took from you will be returned. And I want to work again, at the nonprofit, or somewhere similar, helping people. Torres smiled. I think that can be arranged. They worked until 5 in the afternoon. Lottie's head was spinning with information, protocols, contingency plans, names and faces she needed to remember. This is a lot, she said. It is, but you don't have to remember everything today. We'll meet weekly, go over it again and again until it's second nature. By the time the gala happens, you'll know exactly what to do. Weekly meetings. How do I explain that to Grant? prenatal yoga every Sunday. 2 hours. There's actually a yoga studio 3 blocks from here. You'll check in, stay for 15 minutes, then come here. We've already set it up with the owner. She's a friend. You've thought of everything. That's our job. Your job is to survive, to play your part at home, to stay calm. Can you do that? Lottie thought about it, really thought. Could she go home to Grant? Sleep beside him? Pretend everything was normal? Let him touch her? Kiss her? Control her? For 72 more days? The answer came from somewhere deep. Somewhere she didn't know existed until this moment. The part of her that had survived this long. The part that had protected herself and her baby without even realizing she was doing it. The part that was stronger than she'd ever imagined. Yes, she said, I can do it. Torres stood, extended her hand. Lottie shook it. The handshake felt significant, like a contract, a promise, a commitment that couldn't be broken. Then we're doing this. Operation Champagne Silk. That's what we're calling it. After my dress, after your dress, after the expensive facade your husband built, that's about to shatter into a million pieces. Lottie drove home slowly, stopped at a red light and looked at her reflection in the rearview mirror. The same face she'd seen that morning, but different somehow. More determined, less defeated. Her phone rang. Grant. Where are you? On my way home from yoga. Got stuck in traffic. How was it? Good. Relaxing. The instructor said the stretches will help with back pain later in pregnancy. Don't overdo it. You look tired lately. Just pregnancy fatigue, normal. Right, well, come straight home. We have dinner plans with Ethan and his wife. Of course they did. More performing. But she could do it. She'd done it before. She'd do it 72 more times if necessary. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up, stared at her reflection again. 72 days, she said aloud. We can survive anything for 72 days. The light turned green. She drove home, parked in the garage, did that thing where she sat in the car unable to make herself go inside. The car had become her sanctuary, the only place Grant couldn't reach her, the only space that was truly hers. She counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathed, gathered her strength, became the version of herself that Grant required. Then she went inside. Dinner with Ethan Pierce and his wife Amanda was enlightening in new ways. Now that Lottie knew Ethan was under investigation, she saw him differently. Saw how he and Grant spoke in half-truths, how they exchanged looks when discussing business, how Amanda seemed worn down in the same way Lottie was. At one point, Amanda leaned close, whispered, "You look different. Has something changed?" Lottie's heart stuttered. Could people tell? Could they see that she'd made a decision? That she was planning something? Just pregnancy, she said lightly. Everything's changing. I remember that feeling, like your body isn't your own anymore. Yes, exactly like that. Except Lottie's body hadn't been her own long before pregnancy. Grant had claimed ownership years ago. She'd just been too blind to see it. After Ethan and Amanda left, Grant was in a good mood. The business discussion had gone well. Some deal was moving forward. Lottie didn't ask details. Didn't want to know. In bed that night, he touched her stomach. The baby kicked against his hand. He flinched, pulled away. Does it always do that? The baby's a girl. We found out this week, remember? Right, she. But his voice had no warmth, no connection, like he was talking about a stranger's child, not his own daughter. Have you thought about names? Lottie asked. Names? For the baby, what we'll call her. Oh no, you handle that, whatever you want. Whatever she wanted. There was that phrase again, except when he said it, it sounded like dismissal, like he didn't care enough to participate. I was thinking, Grace, she said, for my grandmother, the one who left me the property. Grant tensed. Let's not use family names. Too much pressure. Choose something neutral. But, Charlotte, I said no. Drop it. She dropped it, added it to the mental list of things she was fighting for. Her baby's name, her grandmother's memory, her own autonomy. Later, when Grant was asleep, she went to the nursery, stood in the middle of the yellow room, the crib, the changing table, the rocking chair she'd picked out herself. One of the few things Grant had let her choose. Grace, she whispered. Your name is Grace. And you're going to grow up free, I promise you that. The baby kicked in agreement. Lottie sat in the rocking chair, rocked slowly, let the rhythm calm her racing heart. 72 days until the gala. 72 days until everything changed. She could do this. She was doing this. For Grace, for herself, for every other woman Grant might hurt if she didn't stop him. The hardest part was admitting she'd known all along. Every red flag she'd dismissed, every excuse she'd made, every time she'd looked the other way. She'd known, deep down. She'd just been too scared to admit it. But fear had kept her small. Fear had kept her compliant. Fear had nearly cost her everything. Not anymore. Now fear was fuel. Now fear was motivation. Now fear was the thing pushing her forward instead of holding her back. She rocked in the chair until dawn. Watched the city lights give way to sunrise. 52 floors up. So high. But she wasn't thinking about falling anymore. She was thinking about flying. Sunday yoga became Lottie's lifeline. Every week for 8 weeks, she drove to the studio in Queens. Did 15 minutes of stretches in the back corner, then slipped out the side exit to the safe house 3 blocks away. The operation was growing. Every week, Torres showed her updates. More agents recruited, more fake identities created, more of Grant's contacts neutralized or flipped. Week 5 brought unexpected news. Diane Reynolds, Grant's mother, had agreed to cooperate. She what? Lottie couldn't believe it. Diane. We approached her carefully, Torres explained, showed her evidence of Grant's financial crimes first, not the domestic violence. That would have made her defensive. But the fraud, the investors he'd destroyed, that reached her. What did she say? She cried, said she'd raised him better, said his father would be ashamed. Then she asked how she could help. His father was worse than Grant. That's where he learned it. Torres nodded. We suspected. Mrs. Reynolds Sr. mentioned that too, said she'd spent 40 years making excuses for her husband. She wasn't going to make them for her son anymore. Will she be at the gala? Yes, she'll act normally, play her part, but she'll also testify when the time comes, against her own son. That takes courage. Lottie thought about Diane, about the question she'd asked weeks ago. Did your husband hurt you? And Diane's shaking hands, her white face, her admission. That was different. Maybe it wasn't different after all. Maybe Diane was finally seeing that. The sessions at the safe house became more detailed. Lottie practiced wearing the necklace, pressing the panic button, speaking clearly for the audio recording, moving naturally for the video. Agent Winters worked with her on body language. You need to act normal, not stiff, not obviously scared, just yourself. Grant knows how you move, how you talk. Any change will alert him. They ran scenarios. What if Grant grabbed her arm? What if he pushed her? What if he tried to isolate her from the crowd? Each scenario had a protocol, a response, a way for the agents to intervene without blowing the operation. Remember, Torres said, we have 500 agents in that room. Every single person will be ours. Waiters, caterers, musicians, photographers, guests, security, all of us. Grant will be the only civilian there besides you. What about Vivian? Vivian will be there as your guest. She'll stay close. She's also been trained. She knows the signals, knows the protocols. What about my OB? Will there be medical staff? 2 doctors, 3 nurses, all federal agents with medical training. Ambulance outside, hospital on standby. We're not taking chances with you or the baby. Lottie was 28 weeks pregnant now. 7 months, obviously showing, Grant's behavior had evolved. He'd stopped touching her stomach, stopped acknowledging the pregnancy except to criticize her changing body, made comments about post-baby weight loss, about getting back to normal, as if she'd ever been normal, as if their life together had ever been anything but a carefully constructed lie. At home, she played her part perfectly, smiled through his criticisms, agreed with his decisions, let him control everything. But she was documenting now. Photos of bank statements, screenshots of emails, recordings of phone calls, everything Torres had asked for. Week 6 brought a scare. Grant found her laptop open to a document she shouldn't have had access to, one of his business files. She'd been looking up information Torres needed, hadn't closed it fast enough. "What is this?" His voice was ice. Her mind raced. "I don't know. I was checking my email. That must have been open from when you used my laptop last week." "I didn't use your laptop last week." "You must have. I haven't looked at business documents." "Why would I?" He stared at her. She held his gaze, didn't look away, didn't flinch. Inside her heart was pounding so hard she thought he must hear it. But outside she was calm, confused, innocent. "Close it," he finally said, "and stay out of my files." "Of course, I'm sorry." He walked away. She closed the laptop with shaking hands. That was too close, too dangerous. She couldn't make mistakes like that. That night she lay awake next to Grant, her hand on her belly, Grace kicking steadily, strong, insistent, reminding her why she was doing this. She thought about the question Dr. Bradshaw had asked. What would she tell her daughter? What advice would she give? The answer was clear now. She'd tell Grace to trust her instincts, to believe herself when something felt wrong, to leave at the first sign of control, to value her own life above anyone else's expectations. She'd tell Grace that surviving wasn't weakness, that asking for help was courage, that fighting back was heroic even when it didn't feel heroic. She'd tell Grace that her mother had been scared too, but she'd fought anyway, for both of them. "Starting over feels impossible," Lottie whispered to the ceiling, to herself, to no one. "But staying feels like dying slowly, and I won't let you grow up thinking this is love." The words felt true, real, like finally admitting something she'd known for a long time but couldn't say. Week 7 brought more preparation. The gala was getting close. 35 days, 5 weeks. So close, Lottie could almost feel it. Torres brought Marcus Doyle to the safe house. The divorce attorney Viv had mentioned months ago. He spread papers across the table. "Mrs. Reynolds, Charlotte, I want to explain what happens legally after the arrest." "Call me Lottie, everyone does." "All right, Lottie. The moment Grant is arrested, we file emergency protective order, custody petition, asset freeze, dissolution of power of attorney. All of it simultaneously." He walked her through each document, where to sign, what each form meant, how the legal process would unfold. "Your grandmother's property will be returned within 30 days. The rest of the assets will take longer. But you'll have access to accounts immediately, enough to support yourself and the baby." "How much?" "Your grandmother's trust was worth approximately $2.3 million when she died. Grant has been draining it, but forensic accounting shows approximately $1.8 million is recoverable, plus the property value and damages from his fraud. Nearly $2 million. Money Lottie hadn't even known she had. Money that was rightfully hers. Money that would give her and Grace the freedom to build whatever life they wanted. "What about Grant's money?" she asked. "The company? All of it will be seized as proceeds of criminal activity. Investors will be compensated first, then victims. Whatever remains will be distributed according to court order. You may be entitled to some of it as community property, but honestly, I'd advise taking your own money and walking away clean. Starting fresh." Starting fresh. The words sounded like freedom. "One more thing," Marcus said. "After the arrest, Grant will try to contact you, from jail, through his attorney, through family members. You need to refuse all contact. No visits, no calls, no messages. Can you do that?" "Yes." "Good, because he'll try to manipulate you, apologize, promise to change, make you feel guilty, blame you for his arrest. Whatever it takes to maintain control, don't let him." Lottie thought about it, about Grant in jail, powerless, unable to hurt her. The image was both satisfying and terrifying. Satisfying because justice. Terrifying because she knew how vindictive he could be, how far he'd go to punish her. "What if he gets out?" she asked. "What if he makes bail?" "He won't. We're charging him with multiple felonies. Flight risk, danger to public. No judge will grant bail. And even if one did, the protective order stands. He comes near you, he goes back to jail. Simple as that." Simple. Nothing about this was simple. But maybe after, maybe then it would be. That night, Grant came home with a dress bag Final fitting tomorrow, 9 a.m., don't be late. The champagne silk, the dress that would cling to her 7-month pregnant body, the dress she'd wear while 500 federal agents watched her husband incriminate himself. I'll be ready, she said. Good. This gala has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. No mistakes. No mistakes, she agreed. But she was thinking about his mistakes, about how many he'd made, about how they were all about to catch up with him. Week 8, 3 weeks until the gala. Lottie was exhausted. The pregnancy was getting harder. Her back hurt. Her feet swelled. She couldn't sleep comfortably anymore. Grace was running out the room. Every kick felt like it was against Lottie's ribs, or bladder, or some other vital organ. But she kept going, kept pretending, kept playing her part. Sunday yoga, 2 hours at the safe house. Torres showed her the final guest list, 500 names, all agents, all coordinated, all ready. This is really happening, Lottie said. This is real. This is real. Are you ready? No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's all we can ask. Charlotte? Torres paused, seemed to choose her words carefully. I need you to understand something. The moment we arrest Grant, your life changes forever. You'll never be anonymous or anonymous again. The press will cover this. Your name will be public. People will have opinions. Some will support you. Some will blame you. Can you handle that? Lottie thought about it, about strangers knowing her business, about being judged, about losing her privacy forever. A year ago, the thought would have terrified her, made her want to hide, made her stay silent, but she wasn't that person anymore. Let them judge, she said. I know the truth. That's enough. Torres smiled. Good. That's what I hoped you'd say. That night, Lottie drove home and sat in her car in the parking garage. Did her thing, her ritual, counted, breathed, prepared herself. But this time she didn't feel trapped. She felt powerful, like she was choosing to go inside, not because she had to, but because she had a plan, a mission, an end game. She looked at herself in the rearview mirror. How many women have sat in parked cars, she said aloud, gathering courage to go home? Too many, way too many. But she was about to change that, at least for herself, and maybe for others who'd see her story and find their own courage. She went inside. Grant was in his office. She didn't disturb him, just made dinner, ate alone, cleaned up, went to the nursery. The yellow room was finished now, everything ready for Grace, clothes folded, diapers stacked, books on the shelf, a room waiting for a baby who would grow up free. Lottie sat in the rocking chair, put her hands on her belly, felt Grace moving, strong, determined, already fighting to make room for herself in a space too small. You're going to be just fine, Lottie whispered. Better than fine. You're going to be loved, protected, free, and you'll never know what it's like to be afraid in your own home. 21 days until the gala. 3 weeks. She could survive anything for 3 weeks. She'd survived this long. She'd survive the rest. And then she'd finally live. 2 weeks before the gala, everything started to crack. Grant's behavior changed, became unpredictable, erratic, like he sensed something was wrong but couldn't figure out what. He'd be charming one moment, violent the next. Lottie never knew which version she'd get. He accidentally bumped into her in the hallway, hard enough to make her stumble, caught her before she fell. Clumsy, he said, smiled, but his eyes were calculating. He started asking more questions. Where exactly was yoga today? Why is your phone always dying? Who's been calling you? Each question made her heart race, but she prepared for this, had answers ready, stayed calm, gave him nothing to latch onto. Then on a Thursday morning, 11 days before the gala, he found her hospital bag. She'd packed it secretly, hidden it in the back of the guest room closet, the closet he never opened. Except he did, that morning, and found it. She woke up to him standing in the bedroom doorway holding the bag. His face was terrifying. Not angry, worse, blank, emotionless, like looking at a stranger. What is this? His voice was too quiet. She sat up slowly, 8 months pregnant now, moving carefully. A hospital bag, for when I go into labor. Why is it packed now? You're not due for another month. The doctor said to have it ready in case the baby comes early. He walked toward the bed, set the bag down, unzipped it slowly, started pulling things out. Clothes, toiletries, phone charger, then the manila envelope. Her heart stopped. Inside were copies of documents she'd made, bank statements, property deeds, things she shouldn't have had access to, things Torres needed, things that would reveal everything. Grant opened the envelope, pulled out the papers. She watched his face as he realized what he was looking at. "What is this?" he said again. But different now, dangerous. Her mind raced. Spin it, deflect, lie. "I don't know, I must have grabbed the wrong envelope when I was cleaning your office. I can put it back." "Don't lie to me." He grabbed her wrist, tight, painful. She gasped. "You've been going through my things, planning something. What are you planning, Charlotte?" "Nothing, I swear, I was just..." "Just what? Just stealing documents? Just gathering evidence? For what? Are you planning to leave me?" "No. No, Grant, because if you're thinking about leaving..." His grip tightened. She felt bones grinding together. "You should know. You'll never see this baby. I'll take her. I'll make sure you're declared unfit, unstable. I have proof. Your therapist, your medication, your anxiety. No court will give you custody." She stayed silent. Survival mode. Let him talk. Let him threaten. Don't react. "You're nothing without me," he continued, leaning close. Whispers. Poison. "You have no money, no gi, no support system. I've made sure of that. Everyone you know, everyone you love, they're all mine. They'll choose me, not you." He was wrong, so wrong, but she couldn't tell him that. Couldn't defend herself. Had to let him think he'd won. "You're right," she said softly. "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking clearly. Pregnancy hormones. I've been anxious about labor, about being a good mother. I wasn't planning anything. I swear." His eyes searched her face, looking for lies, for cracks. She kept her expression calm, defeated, scared, gave him what he wanted to see. He released her wrist, pushed her back against the pillows. "Get rid of these documents, and don't let me catch you going through my things again." "I won't." He took the envelope, walked out. She heard him in his office. The paper shredder, destroying evidence she'd already copied. Evidence Torres already had, but he didn't know that. She sat in bed, trembling. Her wrist was throbbing, already bruising. Dark marks where his fingers had been. She took a photo, another one for Torres, another piece of evidence. Then she started to cry. Not from pain, from something else. The recognition of where she was, how deep she'd fallen, how close to the edge she'd come. She was 8 months pregnant, trapped in a penthouse with a man who'd just threatened to take her baby. 11 days from a sting operation that might work or might blow up in her face, and she was so tired. So unbearably tired. The baby kicked, hard, painful, like she was angry, like she was saying, "Wake up, Mom, fight, don't give up now." "I don't know if I can do this," Lottie whispered. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." But she had to be. She had no choice. Giving up meant losing everything, meant letting Grant win, meant teaching Grace that this was normal, that women should accept this, that love looked like control, and she couldn't do that. Wouldn't. She got out of bed, went to the nursery, stood in the middle of the yellow room surrounded by things she'd carefully chosen. Each item a small act of hope, of belief in a future she wasn't sure would exist. "Starting over feels impossible," she said aloud. To Grace, to herself, to the universe. "But staying feels like dying slowly. And I won't let you grow up thinking this is love." The words felt like a prayer, a promise, an oath she was making to her unborn daughter. Whatever it took, whatever she had to survive. She'd protect Grace from this life. She called Torres from the bathroom with the water running, told her about the hospital bag, the documents, the threats. "Are you hurt?" Torres asked immediately. "Bruised, nothing serious." "We can move up the timeline. Arrest him now, we have enough." "No." Lottie surprised herself with how certain she sounded. "No, we stick to the plan, the Gala. I want him exposed. I want everyone to see. I want him to have no way to deny it, no way to explain it away, no way to play the victim. Lottie, he's escalating. He grabbed you, threatened you, that's assault. I know, but 10 more days. I can survive 10 more days. And then he's done. Completely done. No bail, no mercy, no second chances. Torres was quiet for a long moment. All right, but we're increasing surveillance. Agent Marshall will be outside your building 24/7. You have the panic button? Yes, in my jewelry box, disguised as a bracelet. Good, wear it. From now until the gala, you press that button and we come. Warrant or no warrant, legal or not, we come. Understood? Understood. And Lottie, what you said about starting over, I heard that. Hold on to it, because you're almost there. Almost free. Almost. 10 more days, 240 hours, 14,400 minutes. She could count it down, survive it, get through it. That night, Grant came home with flowers, apology flowers. He did this sometimes. Hurt her, then apologized with gifts. Made her feel crazy for being afraid of him when he could be so charming, so thoughtful, so loving. I'm sorry about this morning, he said. Genuine, warm, like he actually meant it. I've been stressed about the gala, taking it out on you. That's not fair. It's okay. It's not okay. You're my wife, pregnant with my daughter. I should be taking care of you. Not, he trailed off, didn't finish, didn't acknowledge what he'd done. He made dinner. They ate together. Talked about the baby, about names again. He changed his mind about family names. Said Grace was fine, perfect even. Lottie's grandmother would have been proud. It was disorienting. This version of Grant. Kind, attentive. Almost like the man she'd married, or thought she'd married, before she realized that man had never existed. Had been a carefully crafted performance designed to lure her in, to make her feel safe before the trap closed. After dinner, he wanted sex. She went through the motions. Let him touch her awkward, pregnant body. Let him take what he wanted. Hated every second, but played her part. Afterward, he held her, stroked her hair. I love you, Charlotte. You know that, right? Everything I do is because I love you. If this was love, she wanted no part of it, but she nodded against his chest, made agreeable sounds, counted the seconds until he fell asleep and she could escape to the bathroom. When his breathing evened out, she got up carefully, went to her sanctuary, sat on the cold tile floor, let herself fall apart for 10 minutes, cried silently, gasped for air, pressed her fist to her mouth to muffle the sounds. Then she pulled herself together, washed her face, fixed her hair, looked at her reflection. She looked tired, worn down, but not broken. Not yet. 10 more days. She could do this, had to do this, for Grace, for herself, for every other woman who'd sat on a bathroom floor at midnight, wondering if this was all life had to offer. The answer was no. Life had more, better, different. She just had to survive long enough to see it. She went back to bed. Grant's arm came around her automatically, possessive even in sleep. She lay there staring at the ceiling, counting recessed lights. 16. Always 16, but not for much longer. Soon she'd be in a different room, different ceiling, different life. Without Grant, without fear, without constantly calculating how to survive the next conversation. The thought kept her going through the longest night of her life. When morning came, she was exhausted, hadn't slept, but she got up anyway, made breakfast, acted normal, played her part. 9 more days until the gala. She marked it on her mental calendar, crossed off another day survived, another victory, however small. Grant left for work. She had Sunday yoga, but first she had to get through Saturday, an entire day at home with nothing to do but pretend, but think, but count down the hours. She cleaned, reorganized the nursery for the 4th time, folded and refolded baby clothes, did everything she could to stay busy, to not think, to not let fear consume her. Her phone rang. Vivian, how are you holding up? Viv asked. I'm okay. Lottie, come on, don't do that with me. How are you really? I'm terrified and exhausted, and so close to the end I can almost taste it, but also worried that something will go wrong, that he'll figure it out, that the plan will fail. It won't fail. Torres is the best, and you're stronger than you think. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm barely holding it together. That's what strength looks like sometimes. Holding together when falling apart would be easier. You're doing that every single day. That's heroic. Heroic. The word felt wrong. Heroes were brave, fearless, confident. She was none of those things. She was just desperate, surviving, doing what she had to do because the alternative was worse. But maybe that was enough. Maybe heroism wasn't about being fearless. Maybe it was about being terrified and fighting anyway. 9 more days, Lottie said. 9 more days. You've got this. After they hung up, Lottie sat in the nursery rocking chair, put her hands on her belly, felt Grace moving, still strong, still fighting for space, still reminding her what she was fighting for. You saved me, Lottie whispered. Before you were even born, you reminded me I was worth saving. The baby kicked hard, agreement, or maybe just stretching. But Lottie chose to believe it was agreement, chose to believe her daughter already knew, already understood. They were in this together. Mother and daughter, survivor and future, past and hope. 9 more days until freedom. 9 more days until the truth came out. 9 more days until Grant Reynolds learned that destroying women had consequences. Lottie rocked slowly in the chair, watched the city through the nursery window, imagined a different view, a different life, different everything. Soon, so soon. She just had to hold on a little longer. The final dress fitting was 5 days before the gala. Margot the seamstress welcomed Lottie with sympathetic eyes. She remembered the last fitting, remembered Grant's cruelty. This time Grant wasn't there. He'd sent Lottie alone with his credit card and a text message. Make sure it fits perfectly. The champagne silk was beautiful. Even Lottie had to admit that. It draped over her 8-month pregnant belly like liquid gold, made her skin glow, made her look ethereal, almost otherworldly. You look stunning, Margot said, truly, like a goddess. Thank you. How are you? The question was weighted, careful, like Margot was asking more than just about the dress. I'm good, better than last time. Good, that's good. Margot pinned him. You know, I've been doing this for 20 years, fitting dresses for society events. I've seen a lot, learned to recognize certain patterns. Lottie's heart stuttered. Patterns? Women who shrink themselves, who apologize for existing, who let their husbands speak for them. Margot looked up, met her eyes. You're different now. You don't shrink anymore. No, I don't. Whatever you're doing, whatever changed, keep doing it. You deserve better than how he treated you that day. Lottie felt tears prick her eyes. This stranger, this woman who'd pinned her dress months ago, had seen her, really seen her, when so many others looked away. Thank you, Lottie said softly. That means more than you know. The dress will be delivered Wednesday. Day before the gala. You're going to be magnificent. I hope you know that. Magnificent. Not small, not diminished, not less than. Magnificent. Lottie held on to that word as she drove home. Magnificent. She was going to walk into that gala and be magnificent, while her husband's world crumbled around him. 4 days before the gala, Grant started to unravel. Small things at first. Forgot meetings, snapped at business partners, drank more than usual. His hands shook when he thought no one was looking. Did he sense something? Did some animal part of his brain recognize a danger? Lottie didn't know, didn't ask, just stayed quiet, stayed out of his way, let him spiral. 3 days before the gala, Diane Reynolds came to visit. Grant was at work. She knocked on the door mid-morning. Lottie let her in cautiously. Remembered Torres saying Diane was cooperating, but wasn't sure what that meant practically. Charlotte, dear, may I come in? Of course. They sat in the living room, uncomfortable silence. Then Diane spoke. I owe you an apology, several apologies, for years of looking the other way, for defending him when you needed defending, for making excuses. Lottie didn't know what to say. I told myself it was different, Diane continued, that my marriage to Grant's father was unfortunate, a product of a different time, but that Grant would be better. I raised him to be better. Mrs. Reynolds, Diane, please. Diane, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You asked me that question weeks ago, remember? You asked if my husband hurt me. Diane's hands shook. She folded them in her lap. The answer is yes, for 40 years. And I did nothing, said nothing, made myself small so he could feel big. Told myself I was protecting my children when really I was teaching them that this was normal, that this was love. That must have been hard, Lottie said quietly. It was survival, just like what you're doing now. I see it, I recognize it, and I won't be complicit anymore. When they arrest Grant, when this all comes out, I'll testify. I'll tell them everything I witnessed. Every time he grabbed you, every cruel word, every moment of control, all of it. Even though he's your son, especially because he's my son, I failed him by not stopping this sooner, by not getting him help, by enabling his worst qualities. But I won't fail you, or my granddaughter. She deserves to grow up in a world where this isn't normal, where women don't have to shrink. Lottie started crying, couldn't help it. This woman who'd been her enemy, her critic, her judge, was now her ally, her witness, her support. Thank you, she managed. No, thank you for having the courage to stop him, for protecting my granddaughter from the legacy I almost perpetuated. Diane reached over, took Lottie's hand. What's her name? You must have decided by now. Grace, after my grandmother. Grace, that's perfect. Grace for the grace it took to survive. Grace for the grace of a new beginning. After Diane left, Lottie sat in the quiet penthouse and felt something shift. She wasn't alone, wasn't fighting by herself, had allies, had people who believed her, who saw her, who would stand beside her when the moment came. 2 days before the gala, Grant came home early, found her in the nursery. She was organizing baby clothes for the 100th time. Nervous energy, needing to stay busy. Are you ready for Friday? He asked. I think so. Remember, smile, look happy. Don't embarrass me. I won't. Good. He walked over, touched her stomach. First time in weeks. This was bad timing, but we'll make it work. Family man image. Could actually help the business. He was talking about Grace like she was a prop, a photo opportunity, not a person, not his daughter, just another tool for his image. Right, Lottie said, kept her voice neutral. After the baby comes, we'll get you back in shape. Personal trainer, nutritionist, I want my wife back. His wife, like she was a possession that had been temporarily damaged and needed restoration. Not a human growing a human. Not a woman who'd carried his child for 9 months. Whatever you think is best, she said. The words tasted like ash. He kissed her forehead, left the nursery. She stayed there, counted to 100, breathed one more day after today, then the gala, then freedom. The next day passed in a blur, last-minute preparations. Grant was obsessive. Everything had to be perfect. The seating chart, the menu, the music, the schedule. He reviewed it all a dozen times, changed details, second-guessed decisions, drove the event planners crazy. Lottie stayed quiet, let him spiral. Knew something none of them knew, that this gala wasn't what he thought it was, that his perfect event was actually a perfectly constructed trap. That night she couldn't sleep, lay awake running through the plan, everything she had to do, everything that could go wrong, every contingency Torres had prepared for. The necklace would be delivered tomorrow morning. Agent Winters disguised as a jewelry courier. Lottie would wear it all day, get used to it, practice pressing the panic button, make sure everything worked. The dress would arrive tomorrow afternoon. She'd hang it in the closet, pretend to be excited, play the role of the eager wife. And then Friday, the gala, 500 federal agents. One husband who had no idea what was coming. She put her hand on her belly, felt Grace moving, still awake, still restless. Maybe she could sense her mother's anxiety. Maybe babies knew more than anyone gave them credit for. Tomorrow everything changes, Lottie whispered. Are you ready? Grace kicked, hard, like she was saying yes, like she was saying let's do this. Lottie smiled in the dark. Her daughter had more courage than she did, had been fighting for space since conception, had been demanding to be seen, to be acknowledged, to take up room in a world that told women to be small. Grace was already a warrior, already a survivor, already perfect. I'm going to protect you, Lottie promised. I'm going to make sure you never know what it's like to be afraid in your own home. Never know what it's like to apologize for existing. Never know what it's like to make yourself small so someone else can feel big. She drifted off sometime near dawn, slept fitfully, dreamed of the gala, of Grant's face when he realized, of 500 agents revealing themselves, of freedom. When she woke up, it was Thursday. One day until the gala, the last day of her old life, the first day of whatever came next. She got up, made breakfast, went through the motions, and waited for the necklace to arrive, for the dress to be delivered, for the final pieces to fall into place. Grant left for work early, last-minute gala preparations at the venue. She had the day to herself, to prepare, to gather her courage, to become the woman who would walk into that ballroom and change everything. At 10 a.m., the doorbell rang. The necklace. She signed for it, closed the door, opened the velvet box with shaking hands. The pearls and diamond pendant gleamed, beautiful, expensive-looking, perfect for the occasion, and completely weaponized with technology she couldn't see but knew was there. She put it on, adjusted it in the mirror, felt the weight of it, not just the physical weight, the weight of what it represented, evidence, protection, power. She practiced pressing the clasp 3 times, fast, deliberate, the panic signal. Nothing happened, of course. It wasn't activated yet, but tomorrow it would be. Tomorrow that panic button would be her lifeline. At 3 p.m., the dress arrived. She hung it carefully into the closet, champagne silk gleaming in the afternoon light, a beautiful cage, a gorgeous trap. Tomorrow she'd put it on. Walk into that ballroom on Grant's arm, play the part of the dutiful wife one last time, and then she'd watch his world burn. She was ready as she'd ever be. 8 months pregnant, terrified, determined, magnificent. Tomorrow the performance of a lifetime. Tomorrow justice. Tomorrow freedom. Tonight she just had to survive one more dinner, one more night, one more morning. Then it would all be over. Grant came home at 8, exhausted, stressed, poured himself 3 fingers of scotch, drank it in 2 swallows. Everything's ready, he said. Tomorrow's going to be perfect. My crowning achievement. 20 years, 500 guests, the most important night of my life. He had no idea how right he was. It would be the most important night of his life, just not in the way he thought. I'm proud of you, Lottie said, played her part. You've worked so hard for this. Yes, I have, and you'll be there, by my side, looking beautiful, being perfect, not ruining anything. I won't ruin anything, she promised. And she meant it. She wouldn't ruin his gala. The FBI would do that. 500 federal agents would do that. Justice would do that. She was just going to stand there and watch. That night, she lay in bed next to Grant for the last time. She didn't know it was the last time, but she felt it somehow, felt the finality, the ending. Tomorrow she'd sleep somewhere else, somewhere safe, somewhere he couldn't reach her, somewhere she could finally breathe. She closed her eyes, thought about Margot the seamstress, about her words. You're going to be magnificent. Yes, she was. Tomorrow she'd be magnificent. Tomorrow she'd be brave. Tomorrow she'd be free. Tomorrow she'd watch Grant Reynolds learn that destroying women had consequences. That control was an illusion. That karma was real. Tomorrow everything would change. She fell asleep counting down. Hours, minutes, seconds, until the gala, until the truth, until freedom. One more night. She could survive one more night. She'd survived everything else. She'd survived this too. Lottie woke at 6 a.m. Grant was singing in the shower, cheerful, excited, completely oblivious to what was coming. By 3 p.m. she was ready, hair swept up, makeup flawless, the necklace with its hidden camera around her throat, the champagne silk dress draped perfectly over her 8-month belly. She looked magnificent. Grant adjusted the necklace, didn't realize he was touching a federal recording device. Perfect. Don't ruin this, Charlotte. I won't ruin it, she promised, and meant it completely. The car pulled up to the Riverside Hotel, red carpet, cameras flashing, Grant's hand possessive on her back. They walked inside together, his grip tightening with each step. The ballroom doors opened. 500 guests, music, laughter, the perfect party, except every single person was FBI. Agent Torres disguised as a tech CEO, Detective Marshall as a city councilman, Agent Winters as a fashion designer. 500 federal agents, all watching, waiting. Grant had no idea. He smiled, waved, accepted congratulations from strangers he'd never met, never noticed something was wrong. Lottie saw Vivian across the room. Real, solid. Their eyes met. You're not alone. Dinner. Grant's speech about vision and innovation and success. Every word a lie. 500 agents documenting everything. Then dancing. Grant pulled her onto the floor. His grip was iron, smile plastered for cameras. He leaned close, whispered, I know about Marcus Doyle. I know about the FBI. Did you really think you could outsmart me? Her blood froze. He knew. Tonight there's going to be an accident, he continued, voice deadly. You're going to fall. Pregnancy complications. So tragic. And I'll be the grieving widower with full control of your estate and our child. She tried to pull away. His grip tightened, bruising. You made me do this. You forced my hand. His hand moved to her waist, pressed hard, where the baby was. Grace kicked frantically. Grant, please. The baby. Collateral damage. She reached for the panic button, but Grant was faster. He ripped the necklace from her throat. Pearls scattered across marble. The sound echoed. People stopped, turned. His mask dropped completely. You think you're clever? He shook her. Hard, violent. Her head snapped back. You think these people will save you? He shook her again. Harder. She felt something warm. Blood running down her legs. The baby. No. Grant, stop. The baby. He shook her a third time. You embarrassed me. You ruined everything. Then everything exploded. FBI, hands up. Torres, gun drawn. Marshall tackled Grant, hard. 20 agents swarmed, 50, 100. Every guest revealing badges, weapons, federal authority everywhere. FBI, federal marshal, get on the ground. Grant fought, screamed, and you can't do this. I'm Grant Reynolds. I own this city. You're Gala? Torres kneeled beside Lottie. Mr. Reynolds, every single person in this room works for the federal government. They think 500 federal agents, all witnesses. His face went white. All of them? Every single one. We built this entire event just to catch you. Lottie was on a gurney, paramedics everywhere, blood, pain, contractions starting. The baby, she managed. Please. We've got you, both of you. As they wheeled her past Grant, she looked directly at him, spoke clearly, loudly. I'm not sorry. And she wasn't. Not for escaping, not for fighting, not for surviving. The ambulance, hospital, emergency surgery. The baby was in distress, too early, too fast. Vivian held her hand. You did it. You survived. Grace is going to be okay. Then a sound, a cry. High, angry, perfect. It's a girl, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, breathing on her own, strong. Grace, Lottie whispered. Her name is Grace. They brought him over. Tiny, red, screaming, perfect. Lottie touched her face, counted fingers, toes, everything whole. You're okay. We're okay. We're safe now. Recovery room. Torres came by. He's in custody, no bail, facing 43 counts. Wire fraud, securities violations, money laundering, assault, attempted murder, domestic violence, everything. The other women? 17 came forward tonight. After watching his arrest, you gave them courage, Charlotte. You showed them it was possible. Diane Reynolds came in tentatively. May I hold her? Lottie passed Grace to her grandmother. Diane cried, I testified, told them everything, every moment of abuse. I won't look away anymore. Thank you. No, thank you for stopping him, for protecting my granddaughter. Torres pulled out papers. Emergency protective order. Custody granted. Asset freeze. Your grandmother's property restored. Everything. You're free. Free. The word felt foreign, but Grace was real, warm, breathing, safe. What happens to Grant? Exactly where he deserves to be, alone, powerless, watching everything he built come crashing down. That night, Lottie held Grace, looked at her daughter's perfect face. No idea what she'd survived, what her mother had done to protect her. Outside the room, federal agents stood guard. Inside, Lottie finally felt safe, finally felt free. Grant was in custody, Grace was healthy, they were both alive. It was over. Really, truly over. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight she could rest, just be, just exist as Charlotte Reynolds. Survivor, mother, free woman. She'd done it, against all odds, against all fear. She'd survived, and she'd never be that small, that scared, that controlled ever again. Grace slept peacefully in her arms. No nightmares, no trauma. Just a baby who would grow up knowing only safety and love. And somewhere in a federal holding cell, Grant Reynolds sat alone, finally powerless, finally caught, finally facing consequences. Justice had been served, with 500 witnesses, perfect documentation, ironclad evidence. Lottie closed her eyes, let herself believe it, let herself feel it. Freedom. 3 days postpartum. Marcus Doyle entered with documents. Emergency protective order, granted. Full custody, granted. Asset freeze complete. Your grandmother's property restored. The trust fund he drained, we recovered $1.8 million. You're looking at close to $3 million. Financial security, independence, freedom. What about Grant? Arraignment tomorrow, 43 counts. He's looking at 40 years minimum, life maximum. He'll never be free again. Agent Torres arrived next. 17 women testified. The evidence is overwhelming. The case is ironclad. What you did last night, Charlotte, you didn't just save yourself. You saved every woman he would have hurt next. Diane Reynolds knocked softly. I'm testifying tomorrow. Everything I witnessed, every incident, all of it. Even though he's your son? Especially because he's my son. Grace is going to grow up knowing that family doesn't protect abusers. That love means speaking truth even when it's hard. Lottie held Grace, thought about Dr. Bradshaw's question from months ago. What would you tell your daughter? Now she knew. She'd tell Grace to trust her instincts, to believe herself when something felt wrong, to value her own life above anyone's expectations, that her mother had been scared too, but fought anyway, for both of them. I finally understood, Lottie whispered to Grace. I hadn't been weak for staying. I'd been strategic. Every day I survived was a day I gathered evidence. Every smile I faked was armor. I'd been planning my escape all along. I just hadn't known it yet. 6 months later, a different apartment, smaller, warmer, actually hers. Grace crawled across the floor. 6 months old, perfect, happy, safe. Vivian visited. You look different. Happy, actually happy. I'm happy, really, genuinely happy. The trial had been 3 months ago. Lottie had testified, faced Grant's attorney, refused to be broken, guilty on all counts, 40 years to life, no parole for 30 years. She hadn't felt victorious. She'd felt lighter, like she'd been carrying his shame, and finally put it down. It was never hers to carry. What's next? Viv asked. Work. I start back at the nonprofit next month, leading a new program, Advocacy for Pregnant Domestic Violence Survivors, helping other women in situations like mine. Grace knocked over blocks, laughed, pure joy, no trauma, no fear, just a happy baby who'd never known anything but safety and love. That afternoon, a letter arrived. Grant's final appeal had been denied. The conviction stood. It was over. Really, truly, finally over. Lottie called Vivian. The appeal was denied. He's in prison for the rest of his life. How do you feel? Lighter, like I've been carrying his shame my whole marriage, and I finally put it down. It was never mine to carry. That night, Lottie looked at herself in the mirror. Really looked. She looked older, tired, but also stronger. I survived, she told her reflection. I protected my daughter. I stopped a predator. I changed my life. I did that. Me. She thought about the women she'd help at the nonprofit, the ones who'd call desperate, scared. She'd tell them escape was possible, show them proof, be living evidence. She'd tell them about grace, about fighting for your daughter, about finding strength you didn't know you had. She'd tell them about 500 FBI agents, about justice served publicly, about a man who thought he was untouchable, learning he was wrong. She'd tell them about freedom, about waking up without fear, making decisions without asking permission, existing without constantly calculating safety. She'd tell them it was possible, hard, terrifying, exhausting, but possible, and they'd believe her because she'd lived it, survived it, made it to the other side. She was Charlotte Reynolds, survivor, mother, advocate, free woman, strong woman, and somewhere in a federal prison, Grant Reynolds sat in a cell, alone, powerless, forgotten, exactly as he deserved. Lottie climbed into bed, closed her eyes, slept deeply, peacefully, without counting lights or jumping at sounds or wondering if she'd survive. She'd already survived. The hard part was over. Now came the beautiful part. Living. Tomorrow she'd wake up, care for Grace, start planning for work, build her new life brick by brick. Tomorrow was full of possibility, hope, freedom. Tomorrow was hers. She'd made it, against all odds, against all fear. She'd made it, and she'd never be that small, that scared, that controlled, ever again. This was her life now, her choices, her future, her freedom. And it was beautiful.